Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's Ryan Miller checking in for episode 69 of GST's Your Question, My Answer. Today's topic is all about bulking responsibly. Now, we've all seen pictures of people that have gone on the classic dreamer bulk. They've eaten everything in sight. They've been happy about gaining 4 pounds per week, 5 pounds per week. They've achieved this look that they don't even know that they have reached this point of body fat that's too high until they see a picture of themselves and they're just shocked. They can't even believe that that's them in the picture. Now, when you reach that level of bulking, you can be confident after watching this video that you have done something wrong. This video is all about providing you with a tip to make sure that you don't reach that dreamer bulk status, that you never see that picture of yourself and wonder, what the hell happened to me? You don't want to be in that position. I don't want you to be in that position. And so let's talk about this tip. It's real simple to follow. It's counterintuitive to most because most people, when they think about bulking, they think about, all right, it's time to just forget about tracking macros, forget about tracking calories, get my protein in, and then just eat enough to gain a bunch of weight and train as hard as I can. Now, some of those things are right. You want to gain some weight. You want to make sure that you get your protein in, and you want to make sure that you train hard. But the key there is that you don't want to make sure that you get in, one, too much protein, too much fat, or too many carbs, because what that is going to do is it's going to elevate the amount of your calorie surplus. What you want is a conservative calorie surplus, not this gigantic calorie surplus where you're eating 1,000 calories or more per day over what you need to be to gain weight at an ideal rate. Now, this phrase ideal rate, this is really going to be important for this video because the main rule here is that when bulking, when in the off season trying to grow new muscle, you want to eat as little as possible while gaining weight at an ideal rate. Now, the ideal rate is something that might be new to you, and also the fact that I said when bulking or in off-season training for muscle growth, eat as little as possible. Now, that sounds definitely counterintuitive, but I want you to just stick with me and I want you to hear me out. Now, when I say eat as little as possible, I have to follow it with while making progress, while gaining weight at an ideal rate. And that's really the key, because the ideal rate when in the off season and going for muscle growth and a calorie surplus is you want to be gaining weight for women at around a half pound to 3/4 of a pound per week. You don't need to be seeing that 1 pound per week if you're a female, and generally you don't really need to be seeing even that 3/4 of a pound per week. Now, for males, you're obviously going to try to gain a little more weight than females just because we're generally bigger and we do usually put muscle tissue on a little bit easier just due to our higher muscle building hormonal profiles. And so you want to be sticking to around that 3/4 pound to 1 pound per week rate of gain. Now, those 1 pound per week tends to be fast for a lot of males. Generally, it just depends on the overall size of the person. So males, if you stick around that 3/4 of a pound per week mark, or even a half pound for some males, there's really nothing wrong with that. Because if we look at this on a monthly or yearly basis, you have around 2 pounds of gain per month for females. And if you did a 3/4 pound per week rate of gain for males, that's going to put you at about 3 pounds of total scale weight gain per month for males. Now, if we extrapolate that out to the year, a long-term yearly or year-long growth phase, bulking phase, off-season phase for a female would result in about 24 pounds of weight gained in total. For men, you're looking at around 36 pounds of total weight gain. Now remember, this is a year's time. This is putting in the work, training hard in the gym, maintaining that calorie surplus, and doing this for a year. Now, you can make big changes in a year, and in general, it takes a lot of time to really get the body that you want. And so when I talk about a year, it's totally fine for me to do that. Big transformations take multiple years, and that's something that you need to realize. And that brings me back to eat as little as possible while gaining weight at your ideal rate. So if you're gaining weight, if you set up your initial calorie surplus and you start gaining weight at a quicker rate than what I've just outlined, you would need to dial back your calories. It's not like you would be doing better because you're gaining more weight than the ideal rate. That's not a good thing. This isn't like a game of basketball where you try to get as many points as possible, and those points are pounds. This is a situation where gaining too much weight too fast is counterproductive, and it's only going to make your process of future fat loss a longer process, because you have more fat piled up and more fat to lose once you're done with that off season. So whether you realize it or not, this is the reason that when you want to set up a off-season diet in those very first few weeks, you want to start low with your intake, because if you start high, you might overshoot and you might start gaining weight at a more than ideal rate right away. So if you've worked with me, you know already that I always take a conservative approach to setting up nutritional phases for people. So I'll start them off by eating what I consider low-end calorie intake when they're moving into their off season. Again, eating as little as possible while getting them to see some weight gain at that ideal rate. And you should do the same. If you're setting up your own intake, start low. Get your idea of maintenance and just start slightly above it, 100 to 200 calories above it. Keep that in mind. You don't need to be eating 500 calories or 1,000 calories above maintenance right off the bat. It can be a slow start. It can be a ramping effect. This is going to give you a great bit of knowledge about your body. You're going to know that maybe you didn't need that 1,000 calorie surplus to actually gain weight. Maybe you just needed those few hundred calories over maintenance to start. And that would actually be very valuable for you to know, because you would save yourself from gaining too much fat, and your muscle gains can be the same whether you're gaining a little bit of fat or a lot of fat. So I want you to keep that in mind too. Muscle gain is not always proportionate to how much you're gaining on the scale. You can gain 5 pounds on the scale and only 2 pounds of that can be muscle. Or you can gain 3 pounds on the scale and 2 of those 3 pounds can be muscle. Now, which one would you want? Would you want 1 pound of extra fat or 3 pounds of extra fat? Personally, me, I'll take the 2 pounds of muscle and 1 pound of fat over 2 pounds of muscle and 3 pounds of fat any day of the week. And that's the difference between starting conservatively and making sure that when you're building, you're eating as little as possible while gaining weight at an ideal rate. I've said that phrase a lot of times in this video, but it is the point of this video. It is extremely, it's super important, and you guys need to take this advice to heart. Otherwise, you will end up dreamer bulking, and you will end up looking at yourself in a picture one day in your peak off season, and you're just going to wonder why you let it go so far, why you put on so much body fat. And the reason you did is because you took the mindset that the more weight you gain during your off season, the better you were doing, and that's just not the case. So keep that in mind, everybody. If you have questions on this topic, it's a very important topic. It can really save a physique, and it can really save multiple weeks when you decide to cut down or jump into that contest prep. It can make that phase much easier and much shorter. So feel free to ask me questions. My email is ryan@growthstimuloustraining.com. You can always reach out on Facebook to Ryan Smith Miller. That's my full name. And you can always just comment on this video as well. Now it's Monday. It's really cold up here in Minnesota today, so I've got the long sleeve shirt on today. It always feels good to put on those long sleeves and stay warm throughout the day. It's very, very windy today, so we've got some wind chill probably around 0 degrees. And I've got a GST squat day coming up this afternoon, so I'll be getting in some big lower body work. Obviously, that's going to warm me up, get some blood pumping. I'm definitely carved up from that. I had some bread and some blueberry muffins today already, so I'm ready to roll. I want you guys to make sure that you train as hard as possible if you're working out tonight. Eat well today, have some fun tonight, and I will see you tomorrow for GST YQMA episode number 70. Thanks again, and as always, I appreciate the views.